The Apple Man. Do you know this Apple Man? People called him Johnny Appleseed. He was famous for planting apple trees. September 26th is Johnny Appleseed Day. Boys and girls, write your first name, last name, and date at the bottom of your Scholastic News now. Pause the video while you do so. The real Johnny Appleseed. As you read, think about why people still tell stories about John Chapman today. Johnny Appleseed wasn't born with that name. His real name was John Chapman. He lived more than 200 years ago, but people still remember him today. Why do we remember him? John's apples. John is famous for growing apple trees. He planted apple seeds in the ground. They grew into little apple trees called seedlings. John sold the seedlings to people who were building houses. Then he walked to another town and did the whole thing over again. Getting to know John. John was famous for being a good person too. He was generous. He was happy to give to others. Sometimes people didn't have enough money to pay for one of John's seedlings. He would give them the seedling and say, "Pay me when you can." He was friendly. He loved to tell stories and make people laugh. He loved nature. He slept outside under the stars whenever he could. He ate nuts and berries from the wood. He was kind to animals. He didn't like to harm living things. He wouldn't even cut down trees. Telling the story. People admired John. They liked him and they wanted to be like him. Stories about John spread from town to town. Sometimes people added funny parts to the story that weren't totally true. We still tell stories about John today. He showed us how to take care of the earth and how to take care of each other. By Blair Ransford. Real or made up? People tell stories about John. Which ones are true? Story. He wore a pot on his head. He didn't, but he wore a funny hat sometimes. Story. He always walked around barefoot. He did. He even walked barefoot in the snow. Story. His apples were tasty. They weren't. People called them spitters. They were so sour, people spat them out. John grew apple seedlings. He dug them up and sold them.
Dance break.
Let's do a fruit flavor dance. Go apples. Roll it up. Roll it up. Go pears. Move your hips. Go bananas. That's right. Go bananas. Let's dance one more time.
This graph shows different apple treats that kids like. Look at the graph, then answer the questions. Apple treats graph. How many kids like it? Apple cider? That goes up to 4. 4 kids like it. Apple pie? That goes all the way up to the top. 12 kids like it. Next apple treat is apple slices. That goes here. That's in between 6 and 8. What number comes in between 6 and 8? That's right, 7. 7 kids like it. Apple donuts. That one's here. We follow it over. That one's in between 8 and 10. What number comes in between 8 and 10? That's right, 9. Good. How many kids said they like apple cider? So go up to here, to the graph, find which one says apple cider, and see how many kids like it. Is it 4, 6, or 12? Question 2. How many kids said they like apple slices? So go up to the graph, find apple slices. Go over to how many kids said they like it. Is it 5, 7, or 9 kids? Question 3. Which one did 12 kids say they like? Is it apple pie, apple donuts, or apple slices? So boys and girls, let's go up to the number 12, find which bar graph comes up to number 12, and is the treat apple pie, apple donuts, or apple slices? Question 4. Which one did the fewest kids say they liked? The fewest means the least. Is it apple donuts, apple slices, or apple cider? Which one has the fewest? Apple donuts, apple slices, or apple cider? Bonus. Bonus is just another word for challenge, and yes, you have to answer it. How many more kids like apple pie than like apple cider? So now you need to go up and find how many kids like apple pie, find out how many kids like apple cider, and find out the difference with subtraction and write the number on the line.
Life of Johnny Appleseed. Have you ever heard of a man named Johnny Appleseed? He lived in our country long ago. He walked all over our land in his bare feet. He planted a lot of apple trees. Johnny Appleseed wasn't born with that name. It was a nickname. His real name was John Chapman. He was born in 1774 in Massachusetts. John traveled for miles and miles planting seeds. He didn't ride a horse or ride in a wagon. He walked, and he usually didn't wear shoes. He preferred to walk around in bare feet. John didn't want to live in a house. Most nights, he slept outside under the stars. If the weather was bad, he might sleep in a friend's barn with the animals. John was caring and kind. He was gentle to animals. He loved to tell people stories and make them laugh. And people loved to tell stories about John, too. Many people think that John wore a pot on his head all the time. But history experts say that story is a myth. They think John put a tin pot on his head once to make a little boy laugh. People told the story over and over again. After a while, John wore a hat on his head all the time. We still tell stories about John Chapman today. We remember him for being a kind, caring citizen. Most of all, we remember him for all the apple trees he planted.